Hello, my loves, and welcome to this very first episode of Aunty Interviews. I'm very excited to have you with me. I am the joint producer and joint host of nights such as Gay Questions and An Audience With, where we have a look at different performers from across London that you may know and love. These recordings hopefully will give those who are not able to come to those nights a place where they can still find out all the information they wanted to know about their favourite performers. And here you'll be able to find out all of that exciting behind the scenes knowledge that you've always wondered about. Now, I couldn't really start with anyone else apart from this first guest. They're sure to bring the chaos, energy, and the fabulous mess that we have all grown to know with this performer. It's Alma Groin. A true shapeshifter, Alma is a performer and an educator who blurs the lines between style and stage presence in the most exciting way. Whether they're commanding attention with their chaotic, larger-than-life energy, or shifting effortlessly between politically motivated themes, Alma leaves a lasting impression wherever they go. And if you're into a bit of drama, then you'll love what they have to say. Now, Alma is also my drag sister and the other half behind the House of Mess, whose creative direction has been to be unapologetically bold in its performance, which I think defines Alma to a T. Today we'll dive into Alma's journey through the world of performance, the art of balancing chaos with control, and the behind-the-scenes tidbits that come with being one of London's newest and most surprising performers. Just out of their stint in Next Drag Superstar and Drag Idol.
Hello, Alma.
Well, good evening, Ursula.
Hi, I'm good, thank you. We're here laid on your bed.
Oh my God, you just said such lovely things about me. I think they are the nicest words I've ever heard exit your big fucking arsehole gob.
Rude. Well, hopefully I can say more nice things as we go through the interview. So, Alma, can you tell me, where do you think the chaos began?
I do know where the chaos began. The chaos began when I was a teenager. I was quite, if you look back to my like books prior to the hormones kicking in, my handwriting was neat. My reports were good, but yeah.
So little Alma was studious,
shy, creative, sensitive.
Were you one of those children who would be in things like the drama club, the choir?
I had singing lessons, piano lessons. I had drama lessons. I went to brownies and scouts.
So is home quite a creative place then?
I'm really lucky that I'm from a creative family. But not only were they a creative family, they were really, really accepting of like me. Not only did they accept me, but they sort of encouraged me as well to embrace my meanness. Not meanness, which were, they were accepting and embracing the chaos, the queerness, and probably like the blatant dismissal and of conventional behaviours and expectations of society. But, both of my parents were a little bit like that. My mum's from Polish descent, and her dad played the violin, as did she growing up. My dad is from a expat, that's right, expat background. He was born in Nigeria from a very wealthy background, but he very much rebelled against those constructs that he was surrounded by, marrying a Polish girl. A poor Polish girl, can I add? Mum, that's not an insult, by the way. I love you and you're fantastic, and you have made me who I am today. Well, you've supported me on that journey, as you would probably correct me in saying. But yeah, going back to Dad, he married Mum. Not that that's, I would obviously think that's fine, but in thinking about class and the systems that are in place, that in itself is rejecting what was expected of him. And he went to art college, which I'm sure was a huge disappointment to his mum, who, he doesn't really talk about very often. I think he went to boarding school, so family life is a bit complex, I think, there. But going back to like this idea of inspiration, he's an artist, he's a musician. Yeah, so both parents are fantastic, and so is my brother, even though he's only a few years older than me. You know, that boy is a genius man, big man now. He taught himself how to play the guitar. He taught himself how to build computers, how to program. So yeah, family are pretty bloody inspirational.
Home, you're prancing around, being dramatic.
Music's always on, you know, we didn't have TV and internet, so it was all, mum and dad were always playing things like Queen and David Bowie, In Excess, U2, like rock classics we would dance around parts.
And so maybe more shy at school, but a little bit more extroverted at home.
I think, and when I say shy, I think potentially like introverted is the better description. And I think to the outside world that I never appear to be shy, but I would still describe myself, even at this point, where I walk in and command a room, that I'm still actually underneath it all, I'm a really fragile, sensitive, shy individual.
And I'll pick on this bit later as well. Is this idea of this persona that you've got, personas that you've created then, is that a way for you to protect that person who's underneath?
Definitely.
And that's probably started when we were younger. I think it's a running theme with a lot of performers, isn't it?
Right, and it's a different type of shy, right? So it's when you have lots of confident, popular mean girls. Like I was the sort of the like geeky girl that was accepted into the mean girls because our mothers were friends. And they would probably listen to this, and I love you to pieces, you know I do. But I was always different, yeah, and they will say that, and I know that. I was always different, but was kind of accepted because I was lucky enough that we grew up on the same street and I'm multiple friends. So community, we had a community, and I was accepted into their cool club.
Yeah. So you're at secondary school, do you then get involved in clubs there, or do you kind of drift away from it? Because
No, I was always I did singing lessons in school. I took drama as a GCSE. My drama teacher was an inspiration to me. His name was Mr. McCann, and was, you know, he was a huge support network. I had a very difficult teenage years for various reasons we're not going to go into today, but he believed in me, and he's still in year 11. He gave me the lead role. We did Blood Brothers, my favourite musical. Well, one of. You can't choose a favourite, but one that I've seen many times. I was given the role of Mrs. Johnston, and the school actually were a little bit hesitant in giving me that role. And he, you know, stuck to it and gave me the role. But unfortunately, I contracted glandular fever.
oh, for heaven,
The kissing disease, because I was such a little hoe. Nogging everyone in the playground. Like, I thought
the Alma thing. Oh my
I
god!
ended up playing the teacher.
So you're at school. What would your report card say, where they talk about Alma's drive or doing what they're told? What would it say?
I was always likable.
But what I want you most to think about.
This is a leading question. I would like a more open question.
No, because
You want me to give you an answer that I'm not going to give you.
no, because what I want to think about is the idea of that you are like now. Like I've just asked you to do something. It's automatically no.
This is a podcast about showing me to the world, not about what you think of me.
The reason why I asked that is because what's been a joy of doing these conversations is that I can start to draw together some common threads. And one of the things that's come out of most of these conversations has been that even as a young person, there's always been a very quiet or maybe more overt drive for doing what you want to do.
I don't listen very often, and that can be a blessing and a curse, right? Because the confidence that I do have in an idea or what gets me going is what brings me like the pleasure of creating that art and like seeing a process through. So sometimes like if I'm doing something and somebody's offering to support or do it for me or changing an idea, that it's kind of taking away from the process for me, which I know that I am getting better at taking on certain people's advice. But it depends on when it's advice or so I've got an anecdote that actually might answer this question, and you can form your own opinions. Mrs. Wheeler was the head of English, and I was in the top set. There were 2 top sets, sort of like on each side of the year group. And the years I started GCSEs, she pulled me out of Mr. Hinchcliffe's classroom, and asked me to be part of her class, and I was really confused. Like, I was like, why do you want to teach me? Do you fancy me? No, it wasn't that. But she put me out of class. She said, look, you're a bitch, but I'm a bigger bitch. And this
Wait, a teacher said
a teacher said this to me. She said, you're a bitch, but I'm a bigger bitch. So, and I wasn't a bitch. I think I was chatty, and I now understand. Maybe I became the mean girl. Maybe that's what happened.
So let's move forward in time a bit to university, the place where we met. How do you think that impacted you as a performer?
Well, university was where I explored, accepted my sexuality and identity began to shift and change. Meeting like-minded individuals, like I spoke about earlier. Like, as a child, I was always very different, and upon reflection, that definitely has a lot to do with my queerness. Growing up in a very heteronormative world, and university was a space where not only was I able to be myself, but people liked the person that I was being, and nobody was trying to change me. So when you're in a space like that and you're free to explore that on stage, there's certain parts of yourself where you meet for the first time. So.
And any memorable moments or performances from your time at university? I'm sure that I can think of a few for you.
So there are 3 that stand out. One is the first performance we did, which was the Christmas Nativity, where I played
a donkey.
I was a donkey, and I take great pride in that memory. But it was, it was a beautiful setting. We were performing at Greenwich University. Those that haven't seen Greenwich University, please Google it now. And it was cold. It was at night. It was snowing. And I was a donkey, so I was nice and warm, and everyone else was cold. So fuck you guys.
They've used it for filming in Lady.
Films are always being filmed there. It's such a beautiful build, like architecture-wise. It's lovely. The second performance that stays with me is our 20th century acting syllabus, where we did Stanislavski, and we did the fucking cherry orchard every day for an entire year.
Oh, yeah.
It was an academic year, so we had to become. It was Stanislavski. It's method acting, so you have to become the character. You keep a diary. You fucking what did the characters smell as they were walking on stage but you're not on stage. You're in their room.
It was never ending.
And no, it was a really shit story. Or the cherry orchard shit as well. So Russian, horrible, boring, Chekhov. What do you think I'm going to say is the most poignant bone?
Yeah.
It's our absolutely best year of my life in terms of performance. Rent the Musical. We fought really hard in order to convince the university that a musical was, warranted the academic skill to bring it to the stage.
Gosh.
But, it's thinking about the bunch of misfits that, the words you used earlier, came together and created, I think, a masterpiece.
Let's talk about Rent for a little while, because I can remember really vividly the audition process, because I was music directing, wasn't I?
You were indeed.
And do you remember that we had a very sneaky conversation? There was that weird little private room on the back which had a piano in it, and it wasn't decorated, was it? And I going, what are we going to do? And well, to talk through what happened.
Well, the show itself, the kind of the typecast roles had already been given out. So, the role, Joanne, was being played by Abby, one of our friends, who was probably the role that I would have suited the most, I think, out of Mimi considered. But, there were definitely, I wasn't a Mimi at the time. Probably I'd play with Mimi now, but then I was never a Mimi. And what I'm getting at is the only character that hadn't been cast was Mark. So we just, at the time, thinking about a female assigned at birth individual playing a masculine male role was, very forward thinking, and thinking about playing around gender roles and what it means to the story, I suppose. And but then I was just beginning to explore my own gender identity and sexual identity and identity in general, and I think it was just a beautiful time in my life where I was beginning to find out me. So for those that haven't seen Rent the Musical, it's a bunch of bohemians set in the 90s, exploring the AIDS pandemic, as well as thinking about a bohemian lifestyle, as well as emerging queer identity and the space and the community that holds, right?
And what do you think you learnt as a performer from that time of being in that musical?
Trusting the process. Probably listening to advice from others, which I don't I'm always very good at doing. I think performance-wise, I'm very good at knowing somebody's craft and listening to their feedback in terms of performance stuff. Well, there are certain things where I'm stubborn as fuck, like when I'm doing things in my process. But in terms of like listening to the advice that I'm given as a student and now as an educator, understanding how important feedback is, I think I've always understood that process.
You talk there about your process. How does that work? Where do you find inspiration? How does your process work? And has it changed?
Inspiration, supportive people, I find inspirational.
Yes.
You've always been a good, lovely inspiration to me, Boodles.
I am to most people.
I think we bounce off each other and we've sort of grown into one brain cell, haven't we?
Well, I think as I said, start, what we've tried to create when it comes to our corner of performance, shall we say, is always a sense of community, trying to bring people in, but also just fucking do it, like having the guts to try something. I think we are very complimentary when it comes to...
And we're really lucky. We've got that safety net. And I say it's not just lucky, it's hard fucking work. We've taken a long time to build this support network between us and the security to be fearless, as you keep saying, you know? But in terms of inspiration, in terms of artists, there are like lots of... Now I'm definitely changed. Like I've changed my drag persona in the last couple of years to be drag king focused. You know, I've looked to. There are many artists that I'm inspired by. Thinking about Chayo being one who I saw the other week at Rose Garden. Oh my god! It's not. The thing is, I'm never going to. Unless I do drastic things to my appearance, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do and be that. But it's the leaning into character which I admire. And Fabio is hilarious. I always fucking...
Oh my gosh. I think one of the hardest workers at the moment. Has to do like 15 shows a week. How?
They said something recently which inspired me, and if you're talking about inspiration, but also I resonated with massively, which was like thinking about how drag has been a therapeutic... They didn't use this language, but this is what I interpreted, like drag being a therapeutic saving piece of a process which has supported me on my well-being journey and helped me find a space in the world again where I feel safe.
Right. You just come out of the next drag superstar grinder.
Yeah. So you want me to get off what?
Talk to me about next drag superstar in general. Was it what you expected?
To be fair, I was just over the fucking moon that I had been selected, like the first proper king that had been featured on. There's 7 seasons, and they'd never have had a proper king before. The feedback that I was getting, I think imposter syndrome springs to mind, and I couldn't believe how well my art was received. And I was grateful for the mentorship. The process is fantastic. Really supports an artist work out where their strengths lie.
Because I think it's interesting, we talk a lot about the fact that Next Drag Superstar is a very tough competition, but actually you do get a lot of support within that, and I think it does force you, doesn't it, to really look at who you are as a performer. And I think by design...
I'll tell you one thing I really liked from the process, if we're talking about like what the process did for me, it's about trusting and leaning into a character, whereas I think that the week that I was eliminated, let's not go into the lyrics just yet, was because I took a concept and forgot about applying that to the character itself.
Yeah.
And I hear words and I think in binary terms, which is so against like my usual way of thinking.
And again, we talk about the idea of taking on feedbacks, you put yourself into, voluntarily, into a situation where competitions are a lot about feedback, aren't they?
Which I love. I'm a teacher, man. I love
Yeah.
that.
So, I mean, what I see when I've looked at Superstar is growth happens very, very quickly, I think.
So let's think back to Superstar then. I've got 3 words for you, and for each word, I'd like you to think of and describe a performance that you saw. So the first word is hysterical.
Hilarious. Me? Not you. No, seriously. Right, it's hilarious. Thinking about, like, who's close to my circle, I tell you what I found friggin' hilarious, which I wasn't expecting, was when Maud ate the cake really quickly. What week was that? I can't remember what bloody week that was, but like seeing somebody like Maud who, I'm going to use the term look queen, not as like an offensive thing, but like when you first meet Maud, of course, because they're so beautiful, this is a compliment by the way, because they're so beautiful, I think people assume, therefore, maybe they wouldn't be funny. But that's so like furthest from the truth, because funny and beautiful, darling. Yeah, that was brilliant. Other inspirational, no, not inspirational, that was last time. Funny, hilarious. Queer Lynn, oh my god. The funniest thing about going to see Queer Lynn is when they can see that they're like making people a little bit uncomfortable, but they there's like us maybe cackling in the audience. And if somebody encourages them, my God, that will push them with like really dry, traditional kind of British humour, which sometimes challenges the more liberal sort of new age approach to humour, which is to be a bit cautious, right? Now, I think traditional drag surpasses that. Thinking about other people that make people feel uncomfortable, and it's hilarious. Bloody Myra Dubois. Let's quickly share that anecdote. Myra Dubois, if you don't know Myra Dubois is a queen who literally roasts the entire audience. Now, in drag terms, roast means that you're throwing people shade, you're reading them, you're insulting them is what it basically means. Now, they are doing Little Mermaid, my number, can I add? Introduction to part of your world, part of my world.